The Avalon Foundation and MCTV programming is proudly supported by Easton Hardware and Floor Covering. Since 1939, we're still there and we still care.
Dr. Griffith is the current president of the Eastern Shore of Maryland Educational Consortium and has been involved in a number of educational and professional associations. She holds a doctoral degree in educational leadership and innovation from Wilmington University and a master's degree in educational administration from Salisbury University. She has been an educator for over 35 years and has worked as superintendent, principal, teacher in the Talbot County school system, as well as I think another area too. She's very involved with our community, as you all know, and is a regular face everywhere. She's an Easton Rotarian, executive board member of the Talbot County Chamber of Commerce, the Talbot Family Network, Talbot Mentors, and Junior Achievement. She also volunteers with Meals on Wheels, the Waterfowl Festival, and teaches Junior Achievement. I don't know how you have time for it all. So she is with us, so welcome Dr. Kelly Griffith.
Thank you, Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Yep, so I don't need to use the microphone. Okay, well, that's good. We're going to do a short presentation, and then we're going to let you have a virtual reality tour of the building. So we're going to start by talking about a little bit about Easton Elementary School to begin with. And before we even get into Easton Elementary School, I just want to tell you a little bit about our school district. 4,674 students in Talbot County Public Schools. And that was as of September 30th. As of today, we have 4,728. So we are enrolling students on a regular basis. This is basically our race demographics of our school district. And I also have then the demographics of Easton Elementary School. So as you can see, we are a very diverse population. 20 languages are spoken in our homes here in Talbot County. And then if you want to take a look further at our demographics, this is as of March 1st. We have about 10% special education, almost 10% English language learner. That's what that ELL stands for. 504 is a mandate for students that may not qualify for special education, but they can qualify for 504 for accommodations and special services. FARMS is free and reduced meal students. Those are students that are eligible for free and reduced meals. We have 47% in our county. 6.8% of our students have been identified as gifted and talented. And this number here was as of March 1st, 210 of our students are experiencing homelessness at this time, which is the highest number we've ever had. So that is a concern. We do work very closely with social services with those families. And then to take you to Easton Elementary School, Dobson in the Moton Building, here's a breakdown. There's about in the 1,109 students here in between both of the buildings. And as you can see, the demographics are a little bit different than they are as a district. So this is that building, that school building itself. So as you can see, it is more diverse than our school system. And what happens is when you have a school that is more diverse and has more language learners, you do need more resources, and therefore your spaces the accommodations in a new building might look differently. And here are also the demographics. We do not serve pre-kindergarten English language learner services, and we do not serve pre-K for gifted and talented. What I can tell you, out of the pre-K at Dobson, 76 out of the 140 pre-K students, we have that many are free and reduced meals, are Hispanic, Asian, and Native American. We are finding that Easton schools, and I mean Easton Elementary School, middle school, and high school, we've added 147 students since September 30th, and most of them are in our Easton schools. So people are moving into Easton, and I know we're still building some places. So it is something to think about, but when we get into talking about the building of this school, we have to look at the Maryland Planning Department numbers. We can't actually look at our enrollment today. We started planning this project 8 years ago. 8 years ago. So here were the two priorities of the project. Wait, I don't maybe it is, to make sure we keep, because Dobson Building is P3, which is your 3-year-olds. We do have 3-year-olds that come to school. They're adorable. Up through 1st grade, and then the Moton Building is 2nd through 5th. And one of the things that we really worked with Whiting and Turner on is to make sure that they kind of had their own spaces, to really make sure we had that separation. The other is we really wanted to continue the legacy that is in both of those buildings of Moton and Dobson and the building names. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. Here are the actual gentlemen that the buildings are named after, and there's a lot of significance to both of these gentlemen. Robert Russell Moton was one of highly respected educators, not just here, not in Easton, but all over the United States. Whereas Mr. Dobson was actually a teacher and principal at the Dobson Building when it was Glenwood Elementary School. All right there?
Yep.
Okay. And I know that Mr. Dobson was very well respected in the community. And if we take a look, here are some actual facts when it comes to Robert Russell Moton, because I think it's important to know that he did graduate from Hampton Institute. He succeeded Dr. Booker T. Washington as the 2nd principal of the Tuskegee Institute, which I think is really remarkable. Supported work-study programs, really emphasized the liberal arts and education, and established a Bachelor of Science degrees in agriculture, education, and improved courses of study. So he was really a mastermind when it came to being involved in education and also sitting on boards of major philanthropic organizations. A person who really, truly served his community in a lot of different ways. And if you can even envision, these are the Moton buildings before they were today. And so if you actually see, and it's amazing that we actually still have some of these photos of the Moton building. So these kinds of pictures are going to be in the buildings when they're actually built, because we're going to keep that history alive in the building so that our children learn from that history. It's so very important. And from 1937 to 1953, the Moton Building, Glenwood Avenue was built. And that's the current structure that's there now, is the Moton Building in 1953. And if you take a look here, this was the Moton Junior Senior High School. And if you all know, back in the 1953, we have segregated schools. And this was the Black Junior Senior High School. And I can't remember, when was the last graduating class? Do you remember? I went to their reunion. Because Walter Black was the last graduating class. I should have had that in my head. But that was the last class that graduated, and then of course we went together. But this was the Moton Junior Senior High, and then it also was the Votech building at one time, as you saw in the other picture. And then it was renovated in 1992. Renovated. So this is what was after the renovation, and this is really what it looks like today. So the Moton Building has a lot of history. And as you can see here, this is Moton and Dobson buildings from 1958. Over here is the Moton Building, and over there is the Dobson Building, and the Dobson Building was the Black Elementary School at one time. So this is a picture from 1958. All of these pictures will be displayed, and this is the Dobson Building as it is today. A lot of history that behind these buildings, and it's important to make sure that we include that history of both of these gentlemen, as they were truly groundbreaking in education that we have there today. So I think that's important. And with building costs and information, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Shaffer. And Kevin Shaffer is our plant and operations manager for our school district. He's also overseeing this project for Talbot County Public Schools. And before Kevin begins, I'd also like to introduce Sherry Bowen is here. She is the principal of Easton Elementary School Moton Building. And I want to say one last thing. A lot of people say, when this project's done, are we going to have one principal? Are we going to have two principals? We're still going to have Easton Elementary School Moton and still have Easton Elementary School Dobson. So we're not making any changes there. So that'll squelch some of those rumors, because I think Leon has it on camera. So there we go. So there you go, Kevin, without further ado. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Griffin. So I get the easy job tonight of just doing introduction for the project manager for Whiting Turner. But before I do that, I would like to just briefly thank the Talbot County Free Library for organizing this meeting. This is the first community meeting that we've had since the start of construction. So it's important that we keep the community updated on what's going on. So thank you to them. And also, just as a general laundry list of thank yous, and I know that these people probably get tired of me saying this, but I do want to thank the project steering committee. As Kelly alluded to, it's been in planning for approximately 8 years, but really kind of serious planning the last couple of years. And the project steering committee members that participated volunteered their time to get this project off the ground and construction started. And so those people being number one, I'd like to thank Chuck Callahan, who's a county council member who has adamantly supported the project from the beginning, and also sat as a project steering committee member that helped to choose the architect and the construction management firm. So he dedicated a lot of his time to the project thus far, and I thank him for that. The same is true for Otis Sampson, who's a board member and a project steering committee member, or was, and the same is true for him, volunteering time to be a board member, but also to be a project steering committee member to help in the selection process is important. Same thing goes for Albert Brooks, NAACP representative and community member, and a Moton High School alumni. Also sat as one of the project steering committee members and volunteered his time, so I want to always recognize him for his participation. And of course, I have to thank the Talbot County staff, Ms. Duncan, Assistant Superintendent, Rick Walls, the maintenance supervisor, and of course the administration of the schools, Sherry Bowen and Lisa DeVerick, for their participation and for their patience, for the school-based staff, for all that they do while this construction process takes place. And the same is true for the Easton Elementary School community, just the neighbors and the parents and students that are going through the process. It's going to be a very busy 18-month process to get this building constructed, and it's also going to impact, which it is currently, the school days for those children as we go through this. So thank you to everybody for enduring the inconvenience that will ultimately result in a brand new building that's going to be state-of-the-art. So with that, I would like to introduce Logan Street. He's the project manager for Whiting Turner, and very talented. And I say young man, I shouldn't do that because I shouldn't age discriminate. But he's doing a very excellent job. And one of the challenges that he will talk about is, I don't want to steal his talking points, but the weather has impacted this project significantly, and he's been able to continue to maintain the existing schedule that we have to maintain in order to complete the project on time so that we can move into it on time. And it's just a domino effect of things. And so I just want to make sure that I thank him and make sure that we recognize him for his efforts. So without further ado, Logan.
As Kevin said, my name is Logan Street. I'm the project manager with Whiting Turner. I'm actually on site every day of the week, Monday through Friday, some Saturdays, some Sundays, nights, early mornings, etc. I also want to thank the staff on site, the local people in the county, the people that live close to school, because although we like to preach that we are good neighbors, it's very difficult to live and work that close to a $45 million construction site that shares entrances and parking spaces and roads with everybody else. So thank you for everybody for helping work with us, and we will continue to work with everybody throughout the process. We're going to talk a little bit about budget, and we're going to talk a little bit about schedule, give everybody a current status. This stuff was through January of this year. It's now March, so there's actually a month delay. We've been able to do a lot of work in a month, so I'll try to give as much of an accurate update as I can with that information as well. So the original contract value was $45,682,000 and some change. Total approved change orders to date is a credit or deduct of around $35,000. So we've actually been able to continue our value engineering process and try to reduce the cost as a continual basis ongoing. Current contract value is $45,647,000. Total bill to date is about $4.2 million, or roughly 9%. Again, that was through January. So we are just about 13 or 14% billed through February. Okay, so every month we're doing about 4 to 5% work. And that's mostly because we're still in the ground. Okay, so we're still digging for foundations, we're still pouring foundations. We're doing some steel work, as you'll see in some of the photos, but we haven't really started to buy a lot of the equipment materials yet. So as we get into that part of the construction phase, you'll see the percent complete or percent build go up as well. This is the general floor plan of the entire building, okay? It's highlighted in different colors because the colors represent different slab on grade concrete floors. Okay, so each of those colors, green, blue, orange, purple, they're all representative of a different scheduled concrete pour. Currently, we have the green pour, we have that purple pour, and we have about half of that orange pour. Okay, all of that is poured structural slab in place. Okay, we plan to pour this purple next week, and we plan to pour the second floor elevated deck of Area C, what we call this wing, actually on Monday. Okay, so the weather this week kind of pushed that into Monday next week. We're roughly scheduling right now about a concrete pour per week. Okay, so we do that Monday, the purple later that week. The following week, we'll pour this area in the gym, and then we'll pour out the rest of what we call Areas A. Yellow, red, green, we'll pour that within the next 4 weeks. So we hope to have all the slab on grade pours done by mid-April. Okay, and then we're out of the ground, we're out of the dirt, and everybody's happy. Again, this was kind of showing where we were mid-February when we were going to do this presentation. That was poured in place. This was the next area that we were going to do. Slab on grade through there was about 25%. Again, right now we're probably right around 50%. Footings are 70%. That was through January. We're right now around 90%. Okay, we only have a little bit of foundations left. CMU stairs are 60%. We just topped out our last CMU stair yesterday. So we are now done with the stairs. In phase 1 geothermal, we have, out of 300 wells, we've put in 150 wells, and all of the wells that were scheduled to be put in the first phase is all complete. As Kevin mentioned, we have had some challenges. I would say the biggest challenge that we've had to date is this weather. I think we all know that it's rained a considerable amount in the last 12 months, and that has continued into 2019 in a pretty terrible, drastic way, right? We've all been praying for some sunshine, and we got it this week. And because we got sunshine, we were gifted with 2 inches of rain on Sunday night, and we were gifted with like frigid cold all week long.
Yeah,
so I don't know what's better, but I guess I'll continue to pray for some sunlight, I guess. But what's interesting is this, again, was through January, right? So through February 1. And out of 99 total work days, which includes Saturdays, we lost 32 days to the weather. So we lost 30% of our actual days that we could work because it was raining or it was cold or it affected the work that we were doing in place. Okay? These are some pictures. I tried to find some of the worst pictures just to show the extent of our challenge, right? But on a daily basis, because of the room that we have on site and the building footprint, it's almost the entire site. Okay, so the entire site is this building footprint, and every day we are playing in essentially mud. I mean, there has been a lot of rain and a lot of dirt on site that we have to deal with on a daily basis. This picture behind us, I like to use that for the background. That was actually February 1st. Okay, that, if anybody remembers, was a day that it was not supposed to snow.
Yes.
That day was supposed to be flurries that started at 11 and ended at noon with no accumulation. And I say that because the first time of my career, right, I was tracking the weather like 4 times a day, and I wrote it behind me on my whiteboard because I was interested to see how the weather pattern changed and the forecast changed throughout the week. And that snow never showed up on that forecast ever until it started snowing. And it didn't stop snowing all day long. And we ended up getting about 4 inches on site. And I say that because this was the day that we were getting ready to pour a slab, or next slab right there. Okay? Can't really see it here, but this is actually not concrete. The next day we were scheduled to pour. Okay? And with the challenge of weather, I think it's important to know that, Kevin had kind of hinted at it, we've still been able to maintain progress, plan progress. And out of all the slab pours that we've had, we've been within a week of our scheduled slab pour dates. And the question is, how have you been able to do that? There's 99 work days, you've lost 32. That doesn't really add up to make much sense, okay? And I think what's important is that it snowed that entire day, 4 inches of snow, and we have, and I promised that I would do this, we have a carpenter here from ALN prepping wall headers. So he is working in the snow, prepping for the next day's activities once we pour that slab, okay? We have the plumbing contractor here trying to finish up their excavation for the day, Micah, okay? Lywood Electric is over here, again, doing their underground utilities. This is a couple of carpenters from Bay Country who is doing our concrete work, who is still prepping the slab on grade pour through the 4 inches of snow. Okay, that is a Whiting Turner employee with a leaf blower that was blowing off the snow. And by the end of the day, after everybody left, 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock at night before the sun went down, that's what this upgrade looked like.
Pretty amazing.
So the point is, we didn't pour that day. We didn't pour the next day. But we were able to clear off the slab on grade so that on Saturday, we get the full crews to show up and continue their work. They believe that Bill will be able to come in and work the next day and the snow will be removed. So that's what we've been able to, that's part of our deal, I guess. We're keeping up our end of it. They trust us that we can do that. And the next day, we have 40 people on site on a Saturday after 4 inches of snow to continue working. So the only answer that I have to how we're able to maintain our schedule with that is by doing things like this. And that happens on a daily basis. It hasn't been fun. It hasn't been easy. Job site morale is pretty low, as you can imagine, working in the mud every day. I mean, I couldn't go outside for more than 50 minutes today, and we still ask for contractors to continue building walls, continue building stair towers, take down the scaffolding, dig the hole, right? So they feel it. We try to make it better as much as we can for them, right? In general, again, this is through January, but these are milestones that we track throughout our schedule, okay? It's easy to monitor. It can shed light on good things. It can shed light on activities that might be tracking behind too, but we monitor it on a probably like bi-monthly basis every other week. Here are the scheduled dates, and here are the actual dates. Okay, and I want to point out that all the scheduled dates through, all the milestone scheduled dates through February 6th, we've either met or exceeded. And the meeting would be not highlighted, the exceeding would be in green. Okay? Anything within 2 weeks I normally show as yellow, and as we go through these monthly updates, we try to track those milestones accordingly. We went over the work in progress, and these are the completion phases. The project is actually a multi-phase project where we build the building, move into the building, and then do some of the site work. And that is the overall completion of the phases, still tracking to be on schedule or per schedule. We've also been ongoing with what's called building information modeling and our coordination, which is actually done on the computer, 3D. We coordinate the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing with each other, and we coordinate those activities with structure and other things as well. Here's a couple examples. We have, this is a roof well out of one of our penthouses. This is the equipment and the layout of everything that's on this side of that wall there. And here you can see that the ductwork was not going to actually be able to meet where that louver is. Okay, so that louver is this square here. Those two pieces of duct run to that louver. They can't run to that louver because of the way that the truss girders are set up. So we were able to recognize that through this process and make sure that it was acceptable to lower the ductwork and lower this louver on the outside of the wall so that we can coordinate with that truss. So that's the ongoing stuff that we're doing before we even get to the building, okay? And that's pretty neat. And part of the whole 3D or virtual coordination, we'll be able to see a little bit later today too. We can actually wear these VR goggles. We can take a section of our building and we can model it and we can interactively put on the goggles and go into that room and walk around and see the space as if it was going to be built that way. It's actually pretty cool. The construction industry in general in the last 10 years has evolved quite a bit in the whole electronic coordination process. And I think
Yeah, so,
that's it.
yeah, so thank you, Logan. And we're going to have just a little bit of setup time to switch over to Logan's computer so we can hook up the VR goggles. For anybody that wants to take part, you're more welcome to stick around.
And I think it's important to kind of talk a little bit about those spaces so that people understand. So if you guys want to do that, go ahead and set up for a second. So the project, the Moton Building, yes.
When's it going to be completed?
That's what I'm getting ready to take. Yeah, that's what I figured that was a little missing. So the project itself, the Moton Building, the larger building on the back side that you can actually see from the bypass right now, that building will be done, right, Logan? March 2020. And that sounded so long ago until this March, and then I'm like, oh, it's in a year. So in March of 2020, when that building is done, the plan is, and we may have to close school a couple days just for the Moton Building, to move those teachers and those kids into the Moton Building in March. So we physically move them in March. He has it all mapped out so that we have different patterns of how to get kids in and out of the building. And we would move them in March, and then from March until June, they will demolish the Moton Building while our kids are in the new building. He has it all figured out. I trust him. Because these are my babies and they're your babies and we trust him. And then, once the Moton Building is done, demolished, and school is out for the summer, they will then demolish the Dobson Building and redo the parking lot and redo the configuration of that and finish the Dobson Building behind. And they can actually work on the Dobson Building while they're taking down the Moton Building too. So to answer your question, in the fall of the 2021 school year, everyone will be in the new building. Yes. So they have traffic patterns that are changed. So as some of you know now, how many of you have kids at Moton or Dobson? Right. So there's cars all down the road. So the new building, the actual parking lot, the cars will be coming in, and there's a huge loop to get the cars off the road to drop off the students at the building. And there'll be a drop off at the building so that it gets the cars off the road. And then there'll be a separate loop for the buses. So they're not going to be interacting with one another. There you go. That's perfect. You're working with me. Good. So yes, so this was where we were. And, is that what you were going to show?
Yeah, I'm gonna, no, but
Okay.
since you're talking about it, might as well.
Logan does, so this is the new one. So do you see the difference? See, this is the new building. This becomes the parking lot. This is where Dobson was, and it becomes the playfields. Okay? But see this gigantic loop? That's the car rider. Here's your buses down here, so it separates them. That's a real safety feature, which we know Gabe loves. But this is the new, so you go from the older, and we didn't have as much parking, so this actually increases the parking. So when there's events there, people do have places to park, along with the staff as well. So it is in phase work down at the bottom, and you can see how the phases go along. And when we get to this March is when we'll start moving those students into the Moton Building.
The only thing we didn't show is the proximity of the new school currently
Right,
with the existing school, which is shown like right there.
there it is.
So that is where we are working on a daily basis behind the existing Moton school.
Right. So it's tight.
Unfortunately, where's the bypass?
The bypass is right over here where,
You see the edge of it at the top of the screen.
yeah, it's if you can see up in that corner, it's up there. So that corner is about as close as you're going to get to the bypass as the rest of
And
it.
there's no traffic coming from?
No, there will be no traffic coming from the bypass, no, no. We did do just that one entrance just for construction, just so that they could do the construction, and that way we worried about the kids and trucks, and they can only make a right turn there, they can't make a left. So that's just during the construction stage. Nothing will come off the bypass when the school is going. It is amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And Logan was the mastermind of how we could build a school building and still educate almost a little over 1,100 kids so that I wouldn't have to find out where to put them. And it was pretty amazing. So I'm going to let you, are you going to go to the virtual reality?
Here.
Or?
More phases there. That's it.
Here comes the bus.
Yes. Any questions with the phasing plan or how it's going to change?
Excuse me, this is the new school,
Yes,
and so the old school is,
gone.
It'll be where the playing field is.
okay, great.
The Dobson,
Oh, it's over there.
if you look at it right now, the Moton Building is right here, and the Dobson Building is over here.
And they're going to be completely gone by 2021, the old ones.
Correct. Between March of 2020 and August of 2020. That's the plan.
Any other questions with that? Yes, sir. So the virtual reality part is actually more of a interactive thing. So if there's anybody who would like to volunteer or try out for themselves, what we'd like to do is be able to put on the virtual reality goggles. You can actually walk some of these spaces. So we have prepared the media center, the 2 cafeterias, and the gymnasium for people to go walk around in and see what the new building's going to look like.
Go ahead, Derek, come on up. Anybody else want to volunteer? Go ahead. Come on. He is going to have you sit down, because when you have them on, you tend to start to walk backwards.